Right now, at this very moment, over 4,000 miles of Arctic air is racing toward the southern United States, and what is about to unfold could shatter winter weather records that have stood for decades. The question is not if this storm will hit. The question is, are you in its path? 50 to 70%. That is the probability that major cities from Texas to Virginia will experience a winter storm within the next 72 hours. Not a winter weather advisory. A full winter storm. And here is what makes this different from anything we have seen in years. The storm system ingredients are still over the Pacific Ocean, more than 4,000 miles away, yet meteorologists are already seeing agreement levels that typically do not appear until 12 hours before impact. Think about what that means. When weather models agree 5 days in advance, you are looking at something massive. By Friday morning, a 1,049 millibar high-pressure system will be stationed over the central United States. To put that in perspective, anything above 1,030 millibars is considered extremely strong. 1,049 is potentially record-breaking. This is not just cold air. This is some of the coldest air on planet Earth, diving south from Canada, and it is going to collide with moisture streaming up from the Gulf of Mexico. But here is the twist that changes everything. Comment below with your city and state, and in the next 48 hours, I will give you a specific forecast for your exact location. Because where you live will determine whether you see 10 inches of snow or something far more dangerous. Ice. Let me show you what is happening right now over the Pacific Ocean. There are two distinct pieces of energy spinning in the atmosphere. One is positioned near the California coast, the other is further north. When these two systems merge with that Arctic blast, they will create what meteorologists call a textbook setup. And textbook means predictable. It means we know what is coming. Here is what the Weather Prediction Center is already saying. Oklahoma has the highest probability of significant winter weather starting Friday. Arkansas, the Red River Valley of Texas, extending into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. By Saturday, that probability jumps to 50 to 70% for Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro, Asheville, Johnson City, the southern half of Virginia, and Richmond. 80 to 90% probability. That is what the European ensemble models are showing for at least 1 inch of accumulating winter precipitation across a swath stretching from Oklahoma through northern Arkansas, through all of Tennessee, southern Kentucky, and much of North Carolina. When ensemble models, which run 50 different scenarios, agree at 80 to 90% 5 days out, you pay attention. But let me tell you what is keeping meteorologists awake at night. It is not the snow. Someone is going to get crushed with 6 to 12 inches of snow from this system. Virginia and West Virginia are looking at potentially massive totals. The question is not whether heavy snow will fall. The question is, where will the ice form? 1 inch of freezing rain. That is what the model mean is showing for northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, upstate South Carolina, and northeast Georgia. 1 inch of ice accumulation does not sound like much until you understand what it does. Half an inch of ice can snap power lines. 1 inch can bring down trees and leave entire regions without electricity for weeks. And we are potentially looking at ice signals extending all the way to Charleston, Savannah, Myrtle Beach, Atlanta, Dallas, and Austin. Here is what you need to understand about this particular setup. The Arctic air is going to arrive first on Wednesday and Thursday. Temperatures will plummet. We are talking about wind chills potentially reaching 0 degrees Fahrenheit across areas that rarely see temperatures below 20 degrees. Roads will freeze. Any moisture on the ground will become ice. And then, while that cold air is locked in place by that massive high-pressure system, the southern storm will approach from the west. When warm, moist air rides up and over dense, cold air that is trapped at the surface, you get freezing rain. And the longer that cold air stays in place, the longer the freezing rain continues. This is not a quick-moving system. This cold outbreak does not look like it wants to leave anytime soon, which means we could be looking at a high-impact event that lasts for days, not hours, as we wait for things to thaw out after whatever falls. The American GFS model was actually the first to spot this storm. The The European model played catch-up, which almost never happens. When the GFS leads and the European follows, and both models converge on the same solution, you have got something significant developing. Right now, both models are showing a storm track that brings winter weather from Texas to the Carolinas, up through parts of the mid-Atlantic, potentially affecting more than 1,000 miles of the United States. Let me walk you through the timeline, hour by hour, because timing matters when you are preparing. Wednesday afternoon and evening. This is the calm before the storm. You will see some snow showers up in the Midwest into the Ohio Valley. Rain still down south, but that Arctic high pressure will be building. Temperatures will be dropping fast. This is your window. This is when you need to charge devices, fill bathtubs with water in case pipes freeze, make sure you have flashlights and batteries, get groceries, fill up gas tanks, because once this starts, travel will become dangerous quickly. Thursday. The Arctic air fully settles in. We are looking at temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below normal across the southern United States. Any precipitation that falls will freeze on contact. This is also when you will start seeing the first winter weather advisories issued by the National Weather Service. They are being conservative right now, waiting for more data, but those advisories are coming. Friday. This is when the storm begins. The first areas impacted will be Oklahoma, Arkansas, and North Texas. Snow will develop quickly, potentially at rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour in some locations. Further south, where temperatures are hovering right around 32 degrees, freezing rain will begin. And here is the critical detail. Once freezing rain starts, it can continue for 12 to 24 hours in a setup like this. Saturday afternoon and evening. This is when the Carolinas and Virginia get hit. The European AI model is showing what meteorologists are calling a raging ice storm from northeast Georgia through all of upstate South Carolina. Interstate 20 north into South Carolina will likely see ice. Much of North Carolina could experience ice, with snow further north into Virginia and the Ohio Valley. By Saturday night, the storm will be impacting the Interstate 95 corridor. If the track shifts slightly north, which some models suggest it might, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, and even southern New England could see significant snowfall. 6 to 12 inches is not out of the question for these areas if that northern track verifies. Sunday and Monday, the storm continues up the eastern seaboard. Coastal areas from the Carolinas through New England will need to watch for potential nor'easter development as the system interacts with colder air over the Atlantic. Now, here is where this gets really interesting, and this is the part you need to hear at minute 3, because this changes how you should prepare. The GFS ensemble mean is already showing 6 to 12 inches of snow for the Virginia and West Virginia border region. That is the average of 51 different model runs. When the average is 6 to 12 inches, some individual runs are showing much higher totals. We are talking about potential for 18 to 24 inches in the highest elevations. But if you are in Charlotte right now, your bigger concern is ice, not snow. The warm nose, which is meteorology speak for a layer of above freezing air aloft while surface temperatures stay below freezing, is probably going to set up right across the I-85 corridor. That means freezing rain, potentially a lot of it. Here is what 1 inch of ice does. It adds 500 pounds of weight to a single power line span. Tree branches that look sturdy will snap without warning. Roads become ice rinks. Four-wheel drive does not help you on ice. Bridges freeze first and stay frozen longest. And if you lose power when temperatures are in the teens, that is a life-threatening situation. The American model is tracking slightly different from the European model right now, but both agree on the core threat. The American model keeps the heaviest precipitation a bit further north. The European model brings heavier totals further south. Over the next 48 hours, these models will converge. But even if they do not fully agree, understand this. If you are anywhere from Dallas to Washington, D.C., you are in the potential impact zone. Let me show you something remarkable. The chance of at least 4 inches of snow falling, according to European ensembles, 50 to 60% for Oklahoma City, Nashville, Knoxville, Asheville, Boone, the Triad, the Triangle, Southern Virginia, and the Chesapeake. That probability field extends over 800 miles. That is not a localized event. That is a regional catastrophe if it verifies as forecast. Here is what you need to do right now, today, not tomorrow. Stock up on non-perishable food, 3 days minimum, preferably a week. Get medications refilled. If you use medical equipment that requires power, have a backup plan. Know where your nearest warming shelter is located. Have a way to heat at least one room of your house without electricity. Charge all devices. Have backup batteries and power banks ready. Check on elderly neighbors. Make sure they have heat sources and supplies. This is especially critical because this cold air mass is going to stick around. Even after precipitation ends, temperatures will remain well below freezing for days. Snow and ice will not melt. Roads will not clear quickly. You could be stuck at home for 3 to 5 days, depending on your location. If you have to travel, do it before Thursday afternoon. After that, conditions deteriorate rapidly. Airlines are already monitoring this system. We will likely see flight cancellations starting Friday and continuing through the weekend. If you have travel plans, have a backup option or be prepared to cancel. For those of you who love snow and are hoping for a big storm, Virginia and West Virginia are looking like the sweet spots right now. The models are consistently showing the heaviest snow bands setting up along the Virginia-West Virginia border through the Shenandoah Valley and into the higher elevations. If you are a winter weather enthusiast in these areas, this could be a historic event. But for everyone else, this is not about enjoying snow days. This is about preparation and safety. The combination of heavy snow, significant ice, and extreme cold is rare for the southern United States. Infrastructure is not built for this. Most people do not have the clothing or equipment needed for prolonged exposure to these temperatures, and that makes this dangerous. The National Weather Service will begin issuing watches within the next 24 to 48 hours. When you see a winter storm watch for your area, that means conditions are favorable for a significant winter storm within the next 24 to 72 hours. Take it seriously. A watch becomes a warning when the storm is imminent, usually within 12 to 24 hours. When warnings are issued, travel should be avoided unless absolutely necessary. Here is something else you need to understand about ice storms specifically. They are more dangerous than snowstorms in many ways. With heavy snow, you know roads are impassable. You stay home. But with freezing rain, it often looks like just rain. People try to drive. And that is when accidents happen. Ice-covered roads are nearly impossible to navigate safely. Even walking becomes hazardous. Falls on ice send thousands of people to emergency rooms during every ice storm. Power outages from ice storms last longer than outages from snowstorms. When ice brings down power lines and tree limbs, repair crews cannot safely work until temperatures rise above freezing and ice begins to melt. If this storm hits as forecast, with ice accumulations of 1 inch or more across portions of the South, we could see power outages lasting a week or longer in the hardest hit areas. Now, you might be wondering, what are the chances this storm weakens or shifts away entirely? That is a fair question, and here is the honest answer. The ingredients for this storm are locked in. That Arctic air is coming regardless. It is already showing up on satellite imagery over Canada. The southern storm system is also developing as expected over the Pacific. The question is not whether we get a storm. The question is exactly where it tracks and how quickly systems merge. Could it shift further north? Yes, that would be better for the Carolinas and Georgia, worse for Virginia, West Virginia, and the Mid-Atlantic. Could it shift further south? Also, yes, that would bring heavier snow and ice to Georgia and South Carolina, potentially sparing areas further north. Could it weaken? Theoretically, but right now, every piece of data suggests this will be a powerful storm. The meteorological setup is too perfect. When you have Arctic air of this magnitude, a 1,040 to 1,050 millibar high-pressure system colliding with a moist southern jet stream, you get significant winter weather. The physics demand it. The only variables are exactly where and exactly how much. For those of you in the broadcast range of local television stations, your local meteorologists are tracking this around the clock. They will have the most specific, detailed forecasts for your immediate area. What I am giving you is the big picture, the overall pattern, the regional threats. Your local National Weather Service office will issue specific forecasts and warnings for your county or parish. Follow both. Get information from multiple sources. Social media can be helpful for real-time updates, but it can also spread misinformation during major weather events. Stick to verified sources, National Weather Service, local television meteorologists, and official emergency management accounts. If you see dramatic claims that seem extreme, verify them before sharing or acting on them. Let me address something important. Some of you are seeing this forecast and thinking it sounds like hype or fear-mongering. It is not. The data is clear. The model agreement is extraordinary for 5 days in advance. Meteorologists use specific language for a reason. When we say 50 to 70% probability, that means 5 to 7 out of 10 scenarios result in a winter storm for your location. Those are not good odds to ignore. When ensemble models, which run dozens of different scenarios using slightly different initial conditions, converge on a similar solution, confidence increases. Right now, we have that convergence. The European ensemble system runs 51 different model simulations. When 40 to 45 of those 51 runs show significant winter weather for the same region, that is a strong signal. This is the same methodology that allows meteorologists to predict hurricane tracks days in advance with increasing accuracy. The technology, the models, the understanding of atmospheric physics has advanced dramatically. 5-day forecasts today are as accurate as 3-day forecasts were 20 years ago. When models show this level of agreement at this range, it is time to prepare. Here is what is going to happen over the next several days. Models will continue to refine the track. Snow and ice totals will be adjusted as we get closer. Watches will be issued, followed by warnings. Some areas will see totals increase in forecasts, others will see them decrease. That is normal. But the overall pattern, the threat of significant winter weather from Texas to Virginia, that is not going away. By Wednesday evening, we will have much higher confidence in specific totals for specific locations. By Thursday morning, final forecasts will be issued, and then it begins. This is not a drill, this is not an overreaction, this is a potentially historic winter storm for portions of the southern and eastern United States. I want to emphasize something crucial as we approach the 5-minute mark, where I promised you critical information. The greatest danger from this storm is not just the snow or ice itself. It is the combination of heavy precipitation and extreme cold lasting for days. When temperatures stay below freezing for 72 hours or more after significant snow or ice, normal recovery operations are delayed. Salt does not work below 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Snowplows can clear roads, but if temperatures stay in the teens, moisture from melting snow refreezes instantly. This extended cold is what could make this event particularly challenging. Even after precipitation ends, the Arctic high-pressure system is forecast to remain in place. That means Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week could all feature temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below normal. In areas that receive heavy snow or ice, conditions will not improve until temperatures moderate, which may not happen until the middle of next week. For anyone living in rural areas or areas where power infrastructure is above ground and vulnerable to ice damage, have a plan to relocate to a location with heat if you lose power. Staying in a house without heat when outdoor temperatures are in the single digits or teens is dangerous. Carbon monoxide poisoning from improper use of generators or heating sources kills people during every major winter storm. If you use a generator, it must be outside, at least 20 feet from your home. Never use a gas stove or oven to heat your home. Make sure vehicles have emergency kits. Blankets, flashlights, non-perishable snacks, water, phone chargers, and a first aid kit should be in every vehicle during winter months anyway, but especially before a storm like this. If you get stranded, stay with your vehicle. Run the engine for heat for 10 minutes every hour, but make sure the exhaust pipe is clear of snow. The economic impact of a storm of this magnitude will be significant. Businesses will close. Supply chains will be disrupted. If you need something, get it now. Grocery stores in the path of this storm will see runs on bread, milk, and eggs, as always happens, but also on batteries, flashlights, and shelf-stable foods. Do not wait until Friday. By then, stores may be sold out or closed. Comment your location below. In my next update, which will be posted within the next 24 hours, I will have city-specific forecasts based on the latest model data. Include your city and state, and I will tell you whether you should be preparing for snow, ice, or a mix, and approximately how much. We are going to track this storm minute by minute as it develops. Updates will be posted twice daily through Thursday, then potentially every few hours Friday through Sunday as the storm unfolds. This is a developing situation, and while the overall pattern is clear, details will continue to be refined. What makes this storm particularly noteworthy is not just its size or intensity, but its timing and location. Major ice storms in the Deep South are rare but devastating when they occur. The ice storm of 1994 left portions of the South without power for weeks. The ice storm of 2014, which hit Atlanta, stranded thousands of commuters overnight on frozen highways. This has the potential to be of similar or greater magnitude depending on exactly where the heaviest ice sets up. For snow lovers in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, this could be the storm you have been waiting for. If that track shifts just 50 to 75 miles further north, which is well within the margin of error at this range, cities like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York could see 8 to 16 inches of snow. That northern track would also mean less ice for the Carolinas and more snow for Virginia. But if the track stays further south, as the European model suggests, then the Carolinas get hammered with ice while the mid-Atlantic sees a more modest event. This is why I keep emphasizing, the threat is real regardless of exact track. You are either getting heavy snow, significant ice, or both. None of those options are good. As we wrap up, here is your action checklist for the next 24 hours. Get cash. ATMs may not work if power goes out. Fill prescriptions. Stock up on food and water for at least 3 days, preferably a week. Charge all devices. Get batteries. Fill vehicle gas tanks. Know where your flashlights and candles are. If you have a fireplace, make sure you have firewood. Check that you have ice melt or sand for walkways. Bring pets inside. Have a plan for livestock if you have animals. Most importantly, take this forecast seriously, but do not panic. Preparation prevents panic. If you prepare now, you will be fine. This storm is coming, but you have time to get ready. Use that time wisely. The next 48 hours will bring much more clarity on exact snow and ice totals for specific cities. Stay tuned to local forecasts. And remember to comment your city and state below for a specific forecast in the next update. This is a major winter storm, potentially historic for some locations, and everyone in the path needs to be ready. Let me share something that experienced meteorologists know, but do not always communicate clearly enough. Winter storms of this magnitude have cascading effects that extend far beyond the immediate weather event. Schools will close not just during the storm, but potentially for several days after. If you have children, plan for that now. Remote work arrangements, childcare backup plans, having activities and supplies to keep kids occupied during extended indoor time, these all matter. Healthcare appointments scheduled for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or even early next week may need to be rescheduled. If you have critical medical appointments, call now to discuss options. If you have regular medication deliveries, contact your pharmacy to see if you can get medications early. Mail delivery will be disrupted. Anything you are expecting that is time-sensitive, plan accordingly. For business owners, this is the time to make contingency plans. Will you close? Will employees be able to get home safely if you stay open? Do you have supplies to keep operations running if delivery trucks cannot get through? Restaurants should consider their food inventory. If power goes out, refrigerated and frozen items will be lost. Hardware stores should stock up on shovels, ice melt, generators, and batteries because demand will be extreme. The agricultural impact in affected areas could be significant as well. Livestock need protection from extreme cold. Farmers with citrus crops in Texas may see damage from extended freezing temperatures. Even after this storm passes, the cold air mass behind it will linger, potentially affecting early spring planting schedules across the southern states. Here is something critical about communication during winter storms. Cell phone towers can lose power, internet service can go down, have a battery-powered radio or a hand-crank emergency radio. NOAA Weather Radio provides continuous forecasts and warnings. If you lose power and internet, this may be your only source of updated information. Know what radio station your local National Weather Service uses for emergency broadcasts. Establish communication plans with family members. If you get separated or if someone is traveling, how will you stay in touch if phones do not work? Designate an out-of-state contact that everyone can check in with. During regional emergencies, long-distance calls often go through when local calls do not. Text messages also often work when calls do not because they require less bandwidth. For those of you who work in essential services, healthcare, emergency management, utilities, you know you will be working through this storm. Make sure your families are prepared. Make sure they have everything they need before you have to report for duty. And make sure they know how to stay safe if you cannot be home. Your dedication keeps communities running during emergencies, but your family needs to be ready to handle things without you. This storm also highlights why community matters. Check on neighbors, especially elderly residents or those with disabilities. A simple knock on the door to ask if they need anything can be life-saving. If you have neighbors who live alone, exchange phone numbers now. If you have a generator or fireplace and they do not, let them know they can come to your home if needed. Community resilience is built before disasters, not during them. For pet owners, understand that extreme cold is dangerous for animals too. Dogs and cats should be indoors during this event. If you have outdoor animals that cannot come inside, they need shelter from wind and precipitation, extra bedding, and access to unfrozen water. Heated water bowls can prevent dehydration. Animals burn more calories staying warm in extreme cold, so increase food portions during cold snaps. Here is a detail about winter driving that could save your life. If you absolutely must travel during this storm, understand that ice is most dangerous when temperatures are right around 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That is when ice is wettest and most slippery. As temperatures drop below 25 degrees, ice actually becomes slightly less slippery, though still extremely dangerous. Black ice, which forms when temperatures drop after rain or when moisture freezes on roads, is nearly invisible and completely unpredictable. It often forms on bridges and overpasses first. If you hit ice while driving, do not slam on brakes. Do not jerk the steering wheel. Gently lift off the gas and steer in the direction you want to go. But honestly, the best advice is do not drive on ice at all. No destination is worth the risk. Emergency responders will already be stretched thin. Every accident they have to respond to is one less resource available for true emergencies. The mental health aspect of being isolated during winter storms is real too. Extended periods indoors, especially if power is out and you are cold, can be stressful. Have activities planned, board games, books, puzzles, anything that does not require electricity. Spending time as a family without screens can actually be a positive experience if you are prepared for it. But if you are unprepared, if you are cold and bored and worried, stress levels rise quickly. For anyone with small children, remember that kids pick up on adult anxiety. Stay calm around them. Turn preparation into an adventure. Let them help gather supplies. Pick out favorite foods and activities for potential snow days. Make it exciting rather than scary. Kids are resilient, but they need adults to model appropriate responses to challenging situations. Here is financial advice for this storm. If you can afford to, pull out a few $100s in cash before the storm hits. If power is out for an extended period, credit card systems will not work. Gas stations, even if they have fuel, may not be able to pump it without power or process card payments. Cash becomes king during extended outages. Small bills are better than large bills because making change may be difficult. Think about what you will eat if power goes out. Refrigerated food is safe for about 4 hours if you keep the door closed. Frozen food can last 24 to 48 hours in a full freezer if you do not open it. After that, you need non-perishable options. Canned goods, peanut butter, bread, crackers, dried fruit, nuts, granola bars. You can eat well without power if you plan for it. A camping stove can be used outdoors for cooking, but never bring it inside due to carbon monoxide risk. Water is often overlooked in winter storm preparation. If power goes out, water treatment plants may lose capacity. Even if they do not, frozen pipes can cut off water supply. Fill bathtubs and large containers with water before the storm. You need water for drinking, but also for flushing toilets and basic hygiene. 1 gallon per person per day is the minimum recommendation, and that is just for drinking and basic needs. Hygiene during power outages is challenging, but important. Baby wipes or wet wipes can substitute for showers. Hand sanitizer is essential. If water service is interrupted, you will need to manage toilet waste differently. Having a 5-gallon bucket with a snap-on toilet seat and heavy-duty garbage bags can create an emergency toilet if needed. It is not pleasant to think about, but planning for it is better than facing it unprepared. Here is something about winter storms that surprises people who have not experienced a major one. The aftermath can be harder than the event itself. When snow or ice stops falling, you think the worst is over, but then you cannot get out of your driveway. Roads are impassable, power is out, and you realize you might be in this situation for days, not hours. That is when preparation pays off. That is when having food, water, heat, and activities matters most. The psychological impact of seeing your community shut down is real. Street lights out, traffic signals dark, no cars moving, absolute silence where there is usually constant activity. It can be eerie and unsettling, but it can also be beautiful in its own way. Snow-covered landscapes, icicles glittering in sunlight, the complete quiet of a world at rest. If you are safe and prepared, there is something almost magical about experiencing a major winter storm. For those tracking this storm from outside the impact zone, share this information with friends and family in affected areas. They may not be seeing the forecast yet. They may not understand the magnitude of what is coming. A text message or phone call encouraging them to prepare could make a real difference. Weather awareness saves lives, but only if people act on the information. As meteorological science advances, we can see storms like this coming earlier and with more certainty than ever before. 20 years ago, this level of detail 5 days in advance would have been impossible. We would have known something was developing, but the specifics, the confidence, the precision, that is relatively new. Use this information wisely. You have been given a gift of time. Time to prepare, time to plan, time to ensure you and those you care about are safe. The storm is coming, that is certain. How it affects you personally depends largely on how you prepare in the next 48 hours. Will you be warm or cold, fed or hungry, calm or stressed, safe or at risk? Those outcomes are in your control right now. Make good choices. Prepare thoroughly, and when the storm arrives, you will weather it successfully. Track this storm with us as it develops. Updates coming throughout the week. Comment your location for specific forecasts. And above all, stay safe. This is real.